Keep me from evil, that I may not cause pain. In Jesus' name, amen.
Read the article Kingdom Prayers by Joseph Parker on thestand.net. Thestand.net.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. For this Tuesday, March the 26th, 2024, thanks for listening to AFR, live radio show here. So if we get it wrong, if we misspeak, it's hard to correct. So we better get it right. Wesley Wildman, pressure's on.
Speaking about the pressure zone, I feel like because it's live radio, y'all are pulling pranks on me because I can't do anything about it. So I'm going to call you out on live radio. My chair.
What did we do here?
My chair was almost on the floor.
Yeah, it was.
My headset could not fit Goliath, and well, at least I'm already logged in. Okay, so I'll stop complaining there.
All right, let me get back to that just a minute. First, Fred Jackson. Good morning, Fred.
Good morning.
Fred's in studio. Wesley, Tim, and Fred in studio here. Tim is me referring to my third person. And our good friend Ray Pritchard in Kansas City.
Good morning, Tim. How you doing?
Welcome back. Been a
Well,
while.
I've been out and about down in Florida doing, as Ed likes to say, my Bible conference thingy that I do every year, and was gone for 2 weeks. Taught the Book of Ruth to the adults, and then at the Bible Institute taught the Book of Daniel last week, and glad to be back home.
Well, good to have you back. I want to get to that in just a moment, but yeah, for those we had Wesley's chair here in studio was lowered to about 1 foot off the ground.
Yes.
And that was intentional, Wesley. Fred did that because we said Wesley needs to be humble. And we're going to make him sit 3 feet beneath us.
It needs to be brought low. Bring them low.
What's the old saying about flying? People say, the Lord doesn't want me to fly because the Bible says, lo, I'm with you always.
I hadn't heard that one.
You hadn't heard that one?
I hadn't heard that one.
Oh, that's old.
That's yeah.
So Ray, give us a health update. You've mentioned before.
Well, we talked before that I was diagnosed several years ago with prostate cancer, and it was just not doing anything. And then last fall, it decided to get moving a little bit. So I am in prostate cancer treatment. And today, Tim, is day 60 of 180 days of prostate cancer treatment, which means I'm exactly 1/3 of the way through. So right now, they've got me on that hormone deal that basically has attacked my testosterone and destroyed it to bring it all the way down to zero. And let me tell you something, Tim, you don't ever think about your testosterone till you don't have it anymore. And like that old saying, my get up and go has got up and went. So while I was down in Florida, it was great preaching, but I got to tell you, it took far more out of me physically this time. But I thank our friends for their love and for their prayers, and so many of our AFR listeners have let us know they're praying for us. And, Marlene gave me this. My wife gave me this. She said, when we start, honey, we're going to pray for faith and gratitude every day and no grumbling, because I'm quite good at that. I'm gifted in the grumbling department. And so far, she says through day 60, she says I've done pretty well. So I'll take that as a passing grade. Yeah.
Amen. So it takes your testosterone away.
Yeah.
This pill does daily.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes people get a shot, but it's the same thing. Here's the deal. This is the theory behind it all. They know for a fact testosterone fuels prostate cancer. It fuels it. It makes it spread. So the theory is get rid of the testosterone, then go after the cancer with radiation. And once the cancer's gone, turn the spigot off, and the testosterone should come back up. Sometime this fall, I should begin to feel like myself again. But the doctor is very hopeful that we're going to get a cure out of this.
Fred, you mentioned you went through something similar.
Yeah, I went through what's called proton treatment. This was back in 2016, and went to a clinic in Knoxville, and about 15 minutes of treatment a day for about 20 days. and that did it. I had a very light case, The original cancer doctor here said, you know what? If you think you're going to be run over by a Mack truck 6 years from now, don't do anything. Just let it ride. But, talking with my wife, Susie, just me being me, I'd rather get rid of any chance of this thing spreading. So we just went ahead with this. Proton treatment is absolutely incredible. There is no pain, and it has a 99% success rate after 5 years. So it's excellent treatment.
Well, amen. Well, listen, we ask our listeners, I know they are, pray for Brother Ray as he gets well and recovers and moves forward, and pray for total and complete healing. And so you can continue to be on this show, Ray, and then continue your Bible teaching around the country.
Amen.
You got any international travel plan?
We because of this, we canceled 2 trips. In January, we were going to Hungary, and the treatment knocked it out. And then in April, we were going to South Korea, and the treatment knocked it out. So we've shelved international treatment until the doctor says you're good to go. And then back to Hungary, back to South Korea. But if I do go overseas, it'll be, Tim, late in the year, not between now and, say, November probably.
Amen. Well, all right. So, Fred, this morning we sat down for our show prep meeting, which we do every morning when we get to work at 8 o'clock, and we have staff devotion. Then we go into our show prep meeting for this program. And I did not know what had happened overnight. Shocking story, right?
Big story out of Baltimore, Maryland. There is a huge bridge that goes across the Baltimore harbor. It's called the Key Bridge. I'm told millions of cars, trucks go across there every year. Around 1:30 this morning, a huge container trip was about to head out of the harbor, out to the ocean. Yes.
Ship. Container ship.
Container ship. It's about 900 feet long. If you haven't seen one live, you've seen pictures of these things. They have hundreds of these big containers on it. Huge ship. Making its way out of the harbor. And this was all caught. There's a camera that is in place. It was all caught on camera. And it looks routine, but then all of a sudden, the video shows it hitting one of these pylons, the major pylons that holds the bridge up. And basically the whole bridge collapsed. This is all on video. I'm sure YouTube has it right now if you want to go see it. Now, what we're learning at this hour, they are still looking for several people that are missing. Among them, apparently, and I just found this out just before coming in the studio, is that there was an overnight maintenance crew on the bridge fixing potholes. That is routine. Overnight, they have these maintenance crews goes out. 6 of those maintenance crews apparently are missing, of about 8. 1 is in critical condition, fell in the water, I assume. Another one, he said he didn't need any treatment. He just went home. But there also may be people from cars on the bridge at the time. Now, fortunately, it was 1:30 in the morning, very little traffic. But here's what we're also finding out. The governor of Maryland had a news conference just a few moments ago, and he says it looks like the ship lost power as it was moving out just before it hit the bridge. It lost power. It was able to issue a mayday, which allowed officials on either side of the bridge to stop some of the traffic. All right? Now, it lost power. In the video, when you see it, you'll notice all the lights went out on the ship just momentarily. Now, they came back up again just before it hit. There were 2 harbor pilots aboard this ship. Initially, I thought, well, how can a ship hit this? Because there's a big opening where ships normally go. They have 2 pilots. So people are wondering, okay, you got 2 pilots familiar with this harbor. How can this happen? But this big ship, it takes about a mile to stop these ships when they're going. They're huge. And so they lose power. They cannot steer this thing anymore. Did that affect the rudder, which steered it towards the pylon? We don't know that yet. This morning, amongst the many people who were interviewed on this was Charlie Pereri. He's a former NTSB, National Transportation Board investigator. He was interviewed by Fox this morning. We got a couple of cuts, but let's try cut 2 to get some of his expertise on this. Cut 2.
That's not a good indication. There could have been some kind of a power problem that resulted in inability to control the vessel. If you lost all power and it's some form of a power steering system, then obviously that would prevent you from being able to properly control. You can see a pretty significant turn at the end there.
Yeah.
But maybe once they got the power back on, the right rudder was able to be input, but it was too late. He's already headed for the column there. So
does the black smoke tell you he's trying to go in reverse?
That's a possibility. I certainly think that one of the things that they should have done at the power loss would have been to, as they call in the maritime world, reduce all way. In other words, come to a stop if you lose power. But they also could have lost control of the engines and the thrust if that were to have occurred as well.
That's the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, a big bridge.
Huge.
And Wesley, if you watch this, it looks like a demolition.
It does. It's a nightmare for anybody that drive. We've all driven over bridges like this, some bigger, some a little smaller, but it's very long, and you're driving over it, and you look and go, man, I hope nothing happens. Well, something happened here, and I don't remember in my lifetime seeing anything like this that's not in a movie. Most of the time you see something like this, it's in a movie.
The bridge, this big, huge, monstrous bridge just collapses.
That's right.
I mean, you're right. It looks like something out of a movie. It looks like it, like I said, I use the term demolition.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
I'm just glad that there were as few people involved in it as possible. And that was new information for me, that they had enough time to at least stop the officers.
A Mayday call.
Yeah, Mayday call.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good.
Ray, did you see this?
I did, and it's exactly what you guys have said. And Fred, the explanation you gave makes perfect sense, because when you look at the video, it hits the bridge, that pylon, it hits it head on. So you think to yourself, how in the world could this happen? And, in today's world, you think about terrorism, but they've ruled that out, and you think about pilot error, but I guess they've ruled that out, or that will be investigated. But it makes perfect sense that if the power goes out and then it comes on again, but too late to change course, because it hit it smack head on. And I'll tell you, they're not going to be able to repair that bridge in 2 days.
Oh, no.
That's going to take months and months to get the bridge put, because if you haven't seen it, folks, go to the internet and take a look at it, because it's just what the guys are saying. We see these disaster films, and it's what a bridge falling apart in a disaster film looks like, except this one happened in real life last night.
And I'm looking here, of course, I'm by no means an expert on ships and bridges and following that, but just the southern Mississippi guy here looking at, there wasn't much room anyways for air under those bridges.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm not saying that if they're well trained, what do you call them? Are they still called pilots?
Pilots, yes.
The
pilots.
the ship pilots. I'm not saying that they aren't trained for this and they can't do it every time. But even if everything's going great, there's not a lot of room for air.
No.
So
you have to steer those things, between the pylons.
That's right.
And Baltimore Harbor, probably a big, merchant harbor.
It is absolutely huge. And if you look at the video, you'll see some of the bridge structure. It's only about 50 feet deep there, I'm told. So you got some of this bridge structure now sticking up there. This is going to shut down this harbor. And the local economy, it's a huge impact on the local economy if the ships cannot get up there and load and unload. You think of all the crews that are involved with loading and unloading these big ships. But also, I believe cruise ships go in and out of there. So, and not to mention the fact that thousands of people use this bridge every day to get back and forth to work. So at the very least, there's going to be detours now, all of that sort of thing. So it is catastrophic for the local economy. We'll keep you up to date today on our newscast and on AFN with regards to the search for the missing right now.
All right, you're listening to Today's Issues on American Family Radio. Again, the big story right now is the tanker. Well, I don't know if it's a tanker, but it's a big merchant
Container ship.
Container ship.
Yeah.
With a flag from where?
It's Singapore registered,
Okay.
but I believe it was on its way to Sri Lanka.
Okay. And it was leaving the Baltimore harbor, and it hit the bridge pylon and collapsed the whole bridge. And it's a big, big story. You're listening to Today's Issues. What's the next story, Fred?
Well, we could go many different places. Donald Trump had a good day yesterday. We're able to report on that. He had the bond amount reduced there in the case in New York with regards to he has been found guilty in a civil trial of fraudulent estimating of his cost of his buildings, et cetera, et cetera. So it was a good day for him. His lawyer, one of his lawyers in the case, Alina Habba, talked about the victory yesterday, cut number 5.
Letitia had to eat every single tweet she has posted since the day the twisted order from Judge Engoron came out, with the ridiculous number, with the disgusting injustice on the American people, not just Donald Trump.
Yeah, she's talking about Letitia James there, the Attorney General of New York, and we've played the audio many times when she was running for office. She's a Democrat. She said, basically, my thrust of my office is going to be to get rid of Donald Trump.
Well,
after Donald Trump.
Let me ask you this. Yesterday we were on the air, and this news broke.
Mm-hmm.
It is good news. This is all relative, right?
Right.
It is good news for the former president that the bond amount was reduced from $450 million to $175 million, and he's given 10 days to come up with the cash. And he says he has it. He says he has a lot of cash. I mean, more than enough to meet this particular bond. Do you call it do you post bond? Is that what you call it?
Yeah, post bond, and he had to do that in order to appeal
the
ruling.
Yeah. So now, but you said, Fred, yesterday you were reading the fine print, so to speak, and it this same order did penalize both the Trump sons,
family members, yes,
from doing business in New York.
Yeah, well, that is in the original order, so that is put on hold as well now. So until this gets ironed out, I guess they can still do business. But yeah, they not only went after his finances, they went after his family, and saying he and his sons could not do business for 2 or 3 years in New York.
But now his sons were officers in his company, though,
yes,
right?
Yes, yes.
So
yes.
Anyway, well, any idea when the appeal will be heard or anything like that?
No, we don't know that. He's got 10 days to come up with this money. I assume that the Attorney General, Letitia James, would like to proceed with this as quickly as possible. The Trump team may try to extend this out, as they are in other cases, trying to avoid trials in the midst of him campaigning for president. So we'll have to wait and see how quickly the appeals court there in New York will hear his appeal.
The good news for him, and I guess for Biden too, if you want to look at it that way, they don't have to campaign.
Yeah.
Huh?
Sure.
I mean, because they've both sewn up their
Yes.
their respective parties' nominations, is what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, there's no need for President Biden to do anything, and that is in his favor. Because every time he speaks and opens his mouth, we get another soundbite we can use. So there's no need for him to do anything but go to the Rose Garden, make a few appearances, make a few speeches, carefully controlled environments. Mr. Trump is in the same situation, but he's got all these trials and hearings and appeals and all that to take care of. But the campaign, the primary campaigns on both sides, for all intents and purposes, they're over.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, Fred.
President Trump is having a good day on the stock exchange. If you haven't heard, Trump owns a company called Trump Media and Technology Group. That is an umbrella company that controls Truth Social, his social media.
I don't have an umbrella company. I don't. Do you guys? Do you guys have umbrella companies?
No.
Ray, do you have an umbrella company?
I have an umbrella. I have no umbrella company.
All right, there you go.
There you go. Well, today was the first day this company went on the stock market, the NASDAQ, all right? Before going on the NASDAQ, the market value was $6.8 billion. This morning, shares of Donald Trump's social media company jumped nearly 50% in the first day. So he's having a real good day.
Now, why is that? Is that because of, he would say because of his brand, he's built a good brand?
Oh, yeah, his good brand. And,
Yeah.
you know, you've got millions of people who are his fans.
Sure.
And they want to invest.
Let me ask you this question. I don't know. That's called a IPO, right? A initial public offering or something like that?
Right, right.
Okay, so, and those things, when so you take a company that's private, like Truth Social, which was, Trump created that when, was it Facebook or Twitter? Twitter banned him.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Elon Musk put him back on when he changed the name to X and bought the company. Elon Musk said, you know, Trump's welcome
Sure.
to come back on, but Trump has
Yes,
not
yes,
not gone back because he was financially invested in his own company, which, you know, you can't blame him there. However, makes me wonder if Trump wins the presidential election, he'll have to divest of this company. True?
True, yeah.
Which could tank the company.
His sons will probably.
Yeah, but his sons aren't going to attract the people that he attracts on True Social to post. Anyway, we'll see what I guess that's in the future to be yet to be determined. But he needed that cash infusion, I guess.
Well, Tim, just looking at this, so far today, it's up whatever percentage you said, Fred, and I'm kind of looking at the numbers here. It looks like he's $9 billion richer. Tim, that's the definition of a good day when your net worth soars $9 billion and it's not even lunchtime yet.
Yeah. Good point, Ray.
That's a good day right there.
Yep. That's never happened to me, nor did I expect it to.
No. More.
Ed would probably say that's happened to him a few times.
Yeah. Why?
That's just Ed being Ed.
Yeah.
Make it, lose it, you know.
Although I am within sight of paying my house off, so
there you go.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, you got it. It's a good start right there.
Yeah, we got COVID too around the corner. You just hang tight.
No. If I get no, don't say that. I reject that. COVID too.
Don't receive that.
We do not receive that.
No, we do not
Just
receive
hang in
that.
there.
COVID too. If we get COVID too, I'm going to expect a lot of money from the government.
That's
right. I'm going to take it too, without guilt.
Yeah.
All right, Fred. Next story.
Well, still with Donald Trump, we talked about this at our story meeting this morning. He did an interview with an Israeli paper yesterday, and some of the initial report coming out made it sound like he was critical of the way Israel responded to the October 7th attack by Hamas. But I've just been reading the whole article here, and he's saying the images coming out of Israel bombing homes, buildings in Gaza doesn't look good. He worries about that the world is starting to disfavor Israel in all of this, and he is hoping that Israel wraps this up quickly. And he does say at one point in this that he understands the way Israel responded to this. By the way, Israel's defense minister is in Washington today, meeting with Lloyd Austin, our Secretary of Defense. And he's there, according to reports, to get expertise advice from Lloyd Austin on how to carry out the rest of the war.
And that's President Biden? Is that what you're talking about?
No.
No, Trump?
Trump? No, it's the Israeli defense
Oh,
minister.
okay, gotcha.
Is meeting with Lloyd Austin. You know, Israel has a great reputation of having a great army. I'm not sure how much the Israeli defense minister is going to need the help of Lloyd Austin.
Sure.
They know what they're doing.
All right, we'll be back in a moment with more of today's issues on American Family Radio. Stay with us.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
We all want to be successful. And there isn't one thing wrong with that. He made us that way, implanted that desire in us when He breathed into us the breath of life. And it would be an awful dull existence if we didn't have that desire about us, for it causes us to do our best, to go to the highest, to shoot for the top. Far from repressing this desire, He encouraged it, kindled it, and set us afire with it. The trouble comes, you see, when we misuse this desire, turn its energies in the wrong direction, seek its outlets in the wrong ways. For somehow we think that to be successful means that we have to do so according to the standards of those around us. Let me share with you a story worth passing along. In 1923, a group of the world's most successful men, according to society standards, met at the Edgewater Beach Hotel in Chicago. Among those present were the president of the largest independent steel company, the president of the largest utility company, the greatest wheat speculator, the president of the New York Stock Exchange, a member of the president's cabinet, the greatest bear on Wall Street, the head of the world's greatest monopoly, and the president of the Bank of International Settlements. Their meeting attracted national attention. People watched them in awe, stunned by the magic that they had about them. They were envied by millions of people. Well, some quarter of a century later, some snoopy reporter had to get involved in the thing. He decided to see what had happened during the past 25 years to these men of success. He spoiled the happy ending to the story with his findings. He found that the president of the largest independent steel company, Charles Schwab, lived on borrowed money the last 5 years of his life and died broke. The president of the largest utility company, Samuel Insull, died a fugitive from justice and penniless in a foreign land. The greatest wheat speculator, Arthur Patton, died abroad insolvent. The president of the New York Stock Exchange, Richard Whitney, had served a term in Sing Sing federal prison. The member of the president's cabinet, Albert Fall, was released from prison so that he could go home to die. The greatest bear on Wall Street, Jesse Livermore, committed suicide. The head of the world's greatest monopoly, Ivor Krieger, committed suicide. And the president of the Bank of International Settlements, Leon Fraser, committed suicide. I guess many times we close the book without reading the final chapter. And when we do this, we don't always get the full story. We call it a game in the 5th inning with 4 more innings to go. We quit singing on the 3rd verse with 2 verses left. We could get the real picture if we'd read the final chapter, play the last inning, or sing the final verse. I guess the reason he was hung on that ugly tree was that he dared to judge by different standards. This upset the successful people, you know, made them angry, set them against him. So they tried to destroy him, only to find that truth is eternal. Whether one is successful or not depends on what standards he uses to measure success. That's the reason he wasn't impressed by their definition. He had a better one. And you know something? He still does.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
Hey, man, what are you doing?
I'm just laying here, relaxing in a stream. I call it streaming.
Okay, you know that word already has another meaning, right?
AFA Streaming offers free and subscription video content. Titles like By Design, The God Who Speaks, and Asbury Revival, Desperate for More. You'll also find video versions of AFR programs. Visit afa.net and click on Streaming.
So the commercial begins with,
do you want to know a secret? More than just my armpit stink.
The ad then draws attention to the area below the waist using
everywhere
for emphasis, which should be sufficient, but the crudity continues. More could be said, but not here or now, so please visit 1millionmoms.com, inform yourself, and sign our petition urging Secret Whole Body Deodorant to cancel these crude ads. Then ask friends and family to do the same. 1millionmoms.com.
If you're hearing this, you know about AFR, but do you know about the AFR app? With the AFR app, you can hear AFR anytime, anywhere. And now to make it even easier, we've gathered all the sources for our app together in one place at afr.net/apps. There you'll find links to Google Play and the Apple and Amazon app stores. Again, that's afr.net/apps to download the AFR app. So now you know.
One thing I ask from the Lord, this only do I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze on the beauty of the Lord and to seek him in his temple. Psalm 27:4.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. I'm Tim Wildman with Wesley Wildman, Fred Jackson. We're in I was going to...
Your Stupelo?
Stupelo. I was going to just merge some words there.
If it makes you feel any better,
yeah,
I do that too.
You do that
and I'm
too?
34.
Yeah,
okay?
It happens.
It's when you have more coffee than you've had food.
Yeah.
And then your brain starts going faster
Right.
than it's okay, that's what it is.
That's what it is. My brain goes too fast.
That's it.
So
back to
I was going
Stupelo.
to try to merge studio and Tupelo just to make it a word, Stupelo. And Ray's in Kansas City, Kansas, and Ray Pritchard did. Ray, you said that
different weather.
What now?
Significantly different
Yeah,
weather.
yeah. We got springtime. Well, you've had springtime a lot up there, but it's got a late spring storm there, right?
Right now, it's 29 degrees, and it's spitting snow, not heavy. And it's cold and it's windy, and I'm against this. Put me down. I'm against this. Fred, somebody needs to pass a law against this in March. We got to put an end to this.
So we got Pastor Ray against COVID-2, Pastor
right.
Ray against winter storms in March.
Yeah, and I'm joining him in that campaign too. Let's see. We had across there was that same storm that's bringing you snow. I think brought well, maybe it's not the same one, but it's bringing high winds and thunderstorms across much of the southeast.
And temp drop here, but temp drop here got us down to 45 or 50, not necessarily down in the 30s.
Yeah, 67 here today, low of 41.
We had some high winds here last night.
Yes, it was rough.
I go for a walk in the morning. Today is garbage collection day in our neighborhood.
Yep. Yeah.
Garbage cans were strewn all over the place. It was not a good night for garbage cans.
Were they full?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
it was due to be picked up today.
Hate that.
That's not good.
Yeah, it was a bad night for garbage cans.
Yeah.
It was a good night for us because we didn't have to be the garbage man who picked up all the garbage cans.
Yeah.
You're
going a little Dr. Seuss on us right there. I think you might be onto something there. Hey, so just real quickly, Ray, when you went to Florida to was that is that Spring Hill? Is that north of Tampa there? Is that where you?
It's right near Spring Hill. The Spring Hill, Hudson, Newport Richey, exactly the area that
Who sponsors that camp?
Word of Life, that international youth ministry based out of New York, but they've got a big camp in New York and a big camp in Florida.
You speak in New York too, don't you, in the summer?
I do. I'll be there this summer, and I've been doing the Winter Bible Conference for about 32 years now. And I try to schedule go north in the summer and go south in the winter. It's worked out pretty well for me that way.
That's such a smart man right
there.
Do
not blame you for that.
No, not at all. You said you spoke on the Book of Ruth?
Yes.
And then Daniel?
And Daniel. Ruth to the adults in the big Bible conference. And then I taught the book of Daniel to the students at the Bible Institute.
Okay. What's the overarching theme of the Book of Ruth?
It's to show that God keeps his promises through David to bring the promised Messiah to the world, and he does it by bringing in a Moabite woman of all things, a young Moabite widow by the name of Ruth. It's a great, I call the whole series Ordinary Miracles, because there are no, quote, miracles in the book of Ruth. It's just the outworking of everyday life. In some respects, it's a love story. Boy meets girl, they fall in love, they get married, they have a baby. That's been happening since the beginning of time. But God arranged for Boaz and Ruth to meet in a way that could only be called supernatural, so that she was brought into the line of the Messiah. She was the great-grandmother of King David, and she's in Matthew chapter 1, Tim, that the genealogy that everybody skips, right? When they're reading Matthew, they start with the story of Christmas, but Matthew 1 shows that our Lord Jesus was descended from David and Abraham, and Ruth, the Moabite maiden, the Moabite widow, she's in the line of Jesus Christ. It's a testimony to the providential, miraculous grace of God, and it's good news for people who feel outside. God's grace reaches not just insiders, but outsiders too.
Amen.
Fred, any
Well, no, it is a fantastic story, as Ray says, that it reaches across the Jewish lines into and the Moabites. They were not friends with Israel. If you follow the Old Testament through the years, not a great relationship. But the tragedy that Ruth went through prior to making the trip to Israel too, because she was there with her husband. Her husband died.
Right, Mahlon.
Mahlon dies,
Yeah.
and of course her mother-in-law would be a Jewish lady.
Right, Naomi.
And so Naomi decides to go home. She tried to encourage Ruth to stay. Don't come with me because, I'm so poor now. But Ruth said, no, I will go with you. Wherever you go, I will go. And goes, and then she has, Naomi has this relative, Boaz. And there's a particular little funny spot there that Naomi tells Ruth, get yourself cleaned up. Put on some nice clothes and smell nice, and go have a visit with this Boaz guy. Boaz reaches out to Ruth. Remember in the initial scenes there, he says leaves to his farm hands, leaves some food behind so she can pick it up. So it's a romantic story that's in there too. It's got so many aspects to it.
Isn't that where Ruth? Isn't that the famous quote where Ruth says, "Your God will be my God"?
Yes.
Yeah, she assimilated really well to
Yes.
The Israelites.
Yeah.
And their culture and.
Great story.
Well, that's the Book of Ruth in the Old Testament we're talking about here, which Ray taught on recently. Do you pick what you want to teach on, or do these Bible camps request?
Oh, most of the time they just say, come and teach us a book of the Bible, but they leave it open. And the thing about Ruth is, in all my years of teaching, I had never taught through it. I had preached from it, but I had never gone all the way through it from beginning to end. So it was an adventure for me to go through this little book. And, as you guys have said, it's short. It's just 85 verses or something. You can read it in 15 or 20 minutes, but it is deep and it's rich and it's profound. And the part of the story about Boaz being the, quote, kinsman redeemer, or the family redeemer, he's a type of Christ in the Old Testament. It's a rich and beautiful story. And one other thing, Tim, in the story, God never speaks. He's there, but he never speaks, and there's no miracles like we think of the crossing of the Red Sea or the walls come tumbling down or even the axe head floating. Nothing. There are no, quote, miracles, and God never speaks. In fact, life in Bethlehem, which is where the story is set, continues as it has from the beginning. And yet, out of the ordinariness of life, God, there's nobody but God could have brought Ruth and Boaz together. That's why I called it ordinary miracles. And God's fingerprints are all over this story. And I told him, you ought to look for God's fingerprints, because just as he was at work with Ruth and Boaz, he's at work in your life too. If only we had eyes to see what God is doing. And I told him we ought to pray, Lord, open my eyes that I might see your fingerprints at work in my life today. That's a good prayer. And if you pray, good. God will answer it.
Good.
Amen. Just curious, the Moabites, who were they?
Well, okay, go back and read Genesis 19. Tim, that's the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. And we know about the fire and the sulfur and the brimstone that destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, the cities on the plain. And they were so wicked, unbelievable, morally perverse and evil beyond belief. But there was this fellow Lot. Remember Lot?
Yeah.
Who in the Old Testament, really there's not much, it's hard to say much good about him. And yet when you get to 2 Peter, he's called, right, Fred? He's called righteous Lot. Meaning God understood, God saw his heart, and he fled Sodom and Gomorrah. His wife turned around to look at, she looked longingly at Sodom and Gomorrah. She turned into a pillar of salt, and so off goes Lot with his two daughters. And then one of the more sordid stories in the Bible, the girls thinking, well, we're never going to be able to get married, but we want to have babies and continue the line. They got their father drunk, and they laid with their father, and one of the girls gave birth to a son named Moab, and the other gave birth to a son named Ammon, and the Moabites and the Ammonites became bitter enemies of the people of God. So it's I guess what we should say, Fred, is what you said. The Ammonites and the Moabites they were bitter enemies of the people of God, of the Jewish people, and the Moabite religion, their god Milcom, Molech. I mean, it was a perverted religion, and yet God reached his hand down into the perversion of Moabite society and brought out Ruth.
Yeah.
She became a believer, just like you said, Wesley, your God will be my God and your people will be my people. And she brought Ruth, a Moabite maiden, a widow, into the line of the Messiah. Oh, the grace of God.
Amen.
The grace of God.
One of the things I love about the Bible, and I'm not the first to note this, it's so honest. It doesn't paint this beautiful picture.
Right.
And just talk about the nice things that happens.
Right.
It gets down to the basic human nature messing up.
It's not like Facebook, right?
That's right. Where they only put the positive.
That's right.
videos
Yeah,
up.
you only
Everybody's
see the
a friend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you only see the picture of the family on Sunday.
Right.
When they're all dressed up, headed to church.
You know, and the story, like Ray was mentioning, of Lot, he's nephew of Abraham. I mean, he was willing to give. They had homosexuals in Sodom and Gomorrah. He was willing to pass over his daughters to them in order to make these rampant homosexuals go away, because they wanted to go in and have physical relations with the angels who had come to rescue Lot. I mean, there's part of the story there.
Yeah.
The Bible doesn't hold back.
Sure.
It gives all the nasty details there.
Good, bad, and ugly.
The good, bad, and ugly of it all.
Yeah.
And that's the power, one of the powers of the book.
I would encourage our listeners to go to keepbelieving.com. That's keepbelieving.com. That is Pastor Ray Pritchard's website there. I've been there many times over the years. The first tab says sermons, and you can find sermons on the Book of Ruth that we're discussing. He's got several there, from broken down from chapter to chapter, and then an all overviewing. So thank you, Pastor Ray, for your ministry.
Well, thank you, Wesley. And folks, you can the 7 sermons I did on the Book of Ruth, the text of them is right there, Wesley, where you said it, to keepbelieving.com. And visitors are welcome to come and take whatever they want.
Keepbelieving.com. That's Brother Ray Pritchard's website. A lot of content there, and it's free. Check it out. Next story.
All right. Well, we all know that for people who go work for a political party, there's usually life after that job, and many times it's a life working in the media somewhere. You see that,
happens all the time.
George Stephanopoulos,
Jen Psaki,
and others.
Dana Perino, Kayleigh McEnany.
Yep. They go to work for the media. Well, recently, Ronna McDaniel, she was head of the Republican National Committee, and she exited that job. Some people say was pushed out, but she exited. And then we found out in recent days that NBC had hired her. Someone said, I think the $300,000, not a bad gig to start with. But there has been a revolt at NBC. They have gone ballistic, and we're talking about on the air. Chuck Todd, one of the big stars of NBC News, cut number 9, he just went ballistic the other day, cut 9.
And look, there's a reason why there's a lot of journalists at NBC News uncomfortable with this, because many of our professional dealings with the RNC over the last 6 years have been met with gaslighting, have been met with character assassination.
Well, you know, that kind of what happens. You know, there's people, they castigate CNN, and the liberals castigate Fox. Fox has liberals on, and these liberals have been critical of Fox. But it's amazing what has happened. Jen Psaki, too, who was Joe Biden's chief White House spokesman for a while, she said, decided to speak up because as former press secretary to President Joe Biden, her name, speaking of Ronna McDaniel, has been used by McDaniel supporters to point out that a former Democratic political appointee was hired by MSNBC without internal objection. She said that for a television personality, that kind of experience in government only matters and only has value to viewers if it's paired with honesty and good faith. So that was Jen Psaki, who got up in front of the country on a day-by-day basis and, quite frankly, I'll be kind, told half-truths about what Joe Biden was up to. But she gets a job. Jen Psaki is a host of an NBC program.
Right.
She's a host. Ronna McDaniel was just being brought in as one of the political observers on the shows. But they have gone ballistic. There's some speculation that Ronna McDaniel, NBC will back down on the hire.
Really?
Just because the revolt has been so intense.
You should have thought that out. The executives there at NBC should have thought that out before this happened. You got to know you were probably going to receive this kind of a reaction from the left, from the liberal media people on the air there at NBC. But this is just a crazy overreaction. I mean, listen, to me, if you're gonna be a mainstream media company and not left or right, okay, let's go. If you want to go right wing, you go watch Fox or Newsmax. That's what you're going to get 80-90% a conservative / right perspective. You want left wing, you go to MSNBC, CNN for the most part. Now, CNN's done a better job in the last year of being a little bit more balanced in their perspective, like they used to be a long time ago, CNN, giving conservative and liberals equal time. But if you're like NBC and you're trying to come across as playing it right down the middle, okay, and I'm not saying that they have been, but they like to think themselves that way. You've got to have a Republican voice on your commentary shows to be able to have some give and take and offer some balance. You can't just be a left-wing echo chamber. Go ahead.
A lot of the left-wing echo chamber media outlets have lost. We've talked about this for the last 6 or 7 years, that they have lost. Their ratings have gone tanking. They have tanked massively. As a result, money is down drastically. And for them, for NBC, this is a good move in order to try to get back some more listeners, some more people, more viewers, and in hopes also get back some more finances so they can grow their network. Also, too, secondary to that, and for me, a primary, I'm going to step to a 30,000-foot view here. Why do the fact that we've created an environment in 2024, and it's been like this for several years, that people get so freaked out over an exchange of a different idea that we act like this. We completely lose our mind of apart from the mission and your job and your day-to-day operations, to the point that the left-wing media pundits are acting like this over a hire who, in my opinion, is not. She's not a uber. She's first of all, she's not a uber conservative. She's a Republican and a moderate Republican.
Ed's not here, so I'm going to give you a liberal perspective.
Okay, go.
Okay, I'm going to give you a liberal perspective, which I don't like to do that.
Oh, wait, I'm going to be a liberal. I'm going to tune you out. Ears closed. I'm not listening. La, 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 la. No, I'm just kidding.
When I offer a liberal perspective, when I get off the radio, I do repent because it makes me feel dirty. Okay? But I'll just tell you how these people think, okay? By these people, I mean these liberal journalists, okay?
The ones that are overreacting to the hire.
About Ronna McDaniel, for example, the former RNC chairman, Here's what they're going to tell you. She supported Trump, and and his claims that the election was stolen. Okay, they're going to say that is not provable and not true. Therefore, she is a election denier in the same way that somebody believes in Bigfoot. Okay, that's what they're going to tell you. And somebody who believes in Bigfoot does not need to be on the Science Channel. Okay, as a commentator, you follow me there? That's what they say. That's what they believe. I don't buy that, but I'm just telling you what they would say if they were here. But I would say, listen, there are half of the country, roughly, are Republicans. Half the country are Democrats. You can't just have one perspective if you're going to try to draw in. Well, I say one perspective. You can have just basically one perspective and make it. MSNBC, Fox News, CNN. CNN, they might not be around in another year. I mean, they're hemorrhaging, but you can make it if you want to take a particular point of view and push that.
Well, they're not going to win. They're not going to win anybody over to their side if they are acting like this.
I know. But to say we don't want anybody on who supported Trump is just ridiculous. I mean,
it's interesting. The mainstream media preaches the value of diversity all the time. Mm-hmm. They will wave that flag, but when it comes,
but they don't want diversity of opinion.
They do
or
not.
Ideas.
That's the big change in the mainstream media. They will not tolerate any narrative that goes against their line.
Sure.
That's what this is all about. CNN or NBC, they don't have a problem with a Republican like Liz Cheney, because Liz Cheney follows their narrative.
Sure.
So that's their idea of diversity. Let's bring in a Republican that agrees with the Democrats.
There you go.
Let's bring in a Republican that doesn't like Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll say, hey, look at us. We have this Republican. But over on Fox, and Fox is not always great, but they are a whole lot better. They will have panelists on that shout and approve of the Democratic line.
Absolutely.
Day after day after day.
Mm-hmm.
They will have Democrats on that support Joe Biden in his border decisions.
Yeah, and it depends on who you ask. They're borderline more moderate than they are far right news.
Yeah, Fox.
Yeah.
Yeah, I listen. I like exposure to
a mix of them all. Yeah,
I like a variety of viewpoints. I want to hear what the liberals have to say because I want to be able to beat their arguments.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now there are times I only want to hear from our side,
sure.
A more conservative point of view, because I just do. But I'm just saying we shouldn't be scared.
That's my point.
Hearing various,
yep.
Because you got to understand how these people think in order to combat their ideas.
That's right.
Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, and on the issue of the border right now, the left is saying it's the Republicans' fault because they didn't accept that bipartisan agreement that was out there that Biden wanted to hire more Border Patrol people to do the paperwork. And so they're saying so what's going on at the border is Republicans' fault. When everybody knows Joe Biden had the executive powers to continue what Donald Trump did, and he didn't do it.
I don't think the broad general public in America is buying Biden's accusation that the border is Trump's fault.
No.
I mean, Trump wasn't perfect, but he was really good on the border.
He's got his problems, but that ain't one of them.
No, the border he had under control.
Yeah.
And Biden, that's the reason Biden said he did away with all Trump's executive orders on day one, because he wanted to let everybody let the world into America, because Trump was being a bigot by not allowing them. That was his whole message. We'll be back momentarily with more of today's issues. Stay with us.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
At one time, there was one expressway to get urgent information. Aren't you glad for modern technology? Today, AFA Action Alerts can reach you in seconds with up-to-the-minute information that allows you to take action. These days, seconds can mean the difference between keeping our families safe or losing precious Christian freedoms. Sign up for Action Alerts today at afaaction.net.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. The search for survivors continues in the waters of Baltimore after the Francis Scott Key Bridge was knocked down by a cargo ship. Melanie Alnwick of Fox TV affiliate WTTG Washington has the latest.
We had heard that there was a construction crew that was working on the bridge at the time of the impact and that some of those members may have been plunged into the water. There's also that speculation, that belief that there were probably cars or trucks, vehicles on the bridge as well during that sudden collapse. And we do know that they were using sonar, and there was what they called, I heard them saying, they called them hot spots, some signatures, some 40 to 50 feet below the river.
A New York City police officer is dead after being shot while on duty. Brian Yennis explains from Queens, New York.
Two NYPD officers approached a vehicle that was illegally parked at a bus stop. That's when the NYPD said one of those suspects opened fire, shooting and killing 31-year-old NYPD officer Jonathan Diller. The NYPD says that Diller was shot in the torso, they believe underneath his bulletproof vest. He was rushed to the hospital in critical condition where he tragically died from his wounds. Diller leaves behind a wife and reportedly a 1-year-old son. An NYPD source identified the shooter as 34-year-old Guy Rivera and the driver of the vehicle as 41-year-old Lindy Jones.
Amazon is expanding its fast delivery service for medications.
Amazon will now offer same-day prescription delivery in Los Angeles and New York. The same-day service will cover prescriptions for common medications such as diabetes and high blood pressure. It already offers the service in Indianapolis, Miami, Phoenix, Seattle, and Austin, Texas. Amazon plans to expand the service in more than a dozen cities by the end of the year. It's been selling prescription medicines online since 2020. It's been working to improve delivery and has opened warehouses closer to customers. Ginny Coselda, Fox News.
Israel says Hamas is making delusional demands, with a ceasefire deal looking less and less likely. More from Jonathan Savage.
We've had a statement from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office saying Hamas is showing it's not interested in making a deal. With mediated talks ongoing, the Palestinian militants want any ceasefire to lead to the war ending and the withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza, conditions the Israelis describe as delusional. Some officials from Israel's Mossad security agency are still in Qatar, where the negotiations are taking place. Gaza's health ministry says more than 32,000 Palestinians have died in the war. Over 100 Israeli hostages remain in Gaza.
Meanwhile, a conservative activist and political pundit is praising Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for not succumbing to the demands of Joe Biden.
On Monday, the United Nations Security Council issued a demand to halt the fighting in Gaza, calling for a ceasefire during the Islamic month of Ramadan. The U.S. abstained from the 14-0 vote and refused to use its veto, which drew an immediate protest from the Israeli Prime Minister. In fact, Benjamin Netanyahu canceled a planned visit to Washington by a high-level delegation and accused the U.S. of retreating from a principled position by allowing the vote to pass without conditioning the ceasefire on the release of hostages held by the Hamas terrorists. Gary Bauer is chairman of the Campaign for Working Families, who serves on the executive board of Christians United for Israel.
The abstention by the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations is scandalous. It's scurrilous. It's a black eye on the history of the United States. History, if it's written fairly, will not judge this administration well.
Bauer says it is all about getting the Muslim vote.
And so he's signaling that he is perfectly willing for the Jews to be kicked out of Judea and Samaria, for Jerusalem to be cut in half, if it means that's what has to happen for him to save his vote. It is a scandal of the utmost order. He has sent a strong message to the White House. Israel will go down fighting by itself rather than succumb to the demands of a president like Joe Biden.
I'm Chad Groening.
For American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh.
Thoughts of the child you were carrying keep pouring over in your mind. A deep, unrelenting sadness overshadows your days, and you wonder if you will ever feel whole again. There is hope and healing from a reproductive loss. Call the International Helpline, 866-482-LIFE, and talk with someone who has been where you are. Your call is confidential, and we will help you find healing. 866-482-LIFE.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Okay. All right. Welcome back, everybody, to today's Issues on American Family Radio. We got 24 and a half more minutes of live radio for you here. Chris Woodward now joins us, our newsman. Chris.
Thank you very much.
And Wesley's still here. I'm Tim, and we thank you for joining us. Ray Pritchard's in Kansas City. Good morning again, Ray.
Good morning, Tim.
And we got some good news to report. And from the state of Florida, and Abraham Hamilton III. Good morning, Abe.
Good morning.
Abe is our Florida correspondent. You going to go down there and report on this?
Sure.
Yeah.
What time's the plane leaving?
Yeah. Abe's our constitutional
Is it on the
lawyer.
beach?
And I did ask him to comment on some good news out of the state of Florida. And there's been a lot of good news for the last couple of years under the leadership of Governor Ron DeSantis in Florida. They have what's called in Florida called nationally, it's called a supermajority. It's called that in Florida, in the state legislature in Tallahassee. And what that means is basically the Republicans there can do what they want to because nobody's going to stop them because they've got the numbers. And
which was earned.
Yeah, well, how that happened was Governor DeSantis, he had a very successful first 4 years as governor, and he didn't deserve all the credit. He deserves a lot of the credit of turning Florida from purple, sometimes blue, to basically a deep red state now. Whether that changes in the future, who knows? But so they're able to do about whatever they want to in Tallahassee with respect to state law. And yesterday, what did they announce yesterday, Abe?
Yeah, before the announcement, I was just going to say some people forget that when Ron DeSantis was initially elected governor, it was by a small margin, a slim margin.
That's
he
right.
was going against Gillum, I believe his name was, Andrew Gillum. And so
he won like by 2 or 3%.
Yeah, certainly was no more than 4 for sure. But after he got into office, his work with the state legislature in Florida was so well received by Floridians that the voters rewarded them by flipping the legislature overwhelmingly Republican. Where you had, for the first time in decades, places like Miami-Dade voting Republican. You had those areas, and so those things should not only. We should refuse to ignore them. I think politicos around the country need to study what Ron DeSantis has done in the state of Florida.
Yeah. Had it been any other year, I think Governor DeSantis would have been the Republican nominee, probably going away for president. But Donald Trump, the former president, decided to run, and it's Donald Trump controls the Republican Party right now. I call him the Godfather of the Republican Party. Whatever he says goes. And so that's just the way it is. Okay, so DeSantis got out because he didn't have the support, but he would have, I think, if Trump wouldn't have run. But that is what it is. But what happened in Florida?
Yeah, so the state of Florida, Ron DeSantis signed a bill into law that now it says bans children under 14 from using social media, but the reality is it says children under 14 can't get on social media without the parents' consent. That's really what the law says.
That's what Governor DeSantis signed
That's
into
what he
law.
signed into law. So simply put, that 14-year-olds and younger, they have to have parental consent in order to access social media, as opposed to being able to just hop right on.
What do you think about this?
I think several things. First and foremost, I don't understand why a 14-year-old would need to have social media. That's first. I'm a parent. You know I'm a parent. I don't understand that, but I'm not going to impose my preferences and convictions on other people.
Define what we mean by social media.
Yeah, like
go ahead.
TikTok, YouTube, X, Instagram, Facebook.
So what the state law is saying there is that in Florida is that you can't register unless you're a certain age. I don't know I don't know how they'll technically implement that, but they'll figure that out, I guess.
In the implementation, they impose the responsibility on the social media companies. So
gotcha.
So the companies use
you got to prove your age to them.
IP addresses. Yes, they're going to have to submit age verification.
It's not 100% foolproof.
Yeah.
But the big idea is that Wesley, that children should not have wide open access to social media
without their parents' consent.
Without their parents' consent, and that's what the state law in Florida is trying to represent. Listen, we have, we have laws that, you can't drive till you're 16. You can't get a state driver's license till you're 16. You can't buy alcohol till you're 18 or 21. I don't know what the state law is in
21.
Tobacco, same thing.
Yeah.
You can't even go to the doctor.
Can't get a tattoo.
Huh? By yourself. Yeah, there's precedent that's been around forever. Wesley, you want to comment on this, having to do with age restrictions for certain activities in states all over the country? Go ahead.
I don't want to take away from this. This is a really good conversation, and
well, then don't take away from it.
Well, there's
really
something
good.
that's even more. There's something even better in all this that's not being talked
about. Lay it on me.
But before I do, I'm still learning and reading about this. But at face value, what I've seen this morning, I'm personally just Wesley in favor of it. But also too, HB3 also requires pornographic websites to use age verification to prevent minors from accessing such content. Everybody shouldn't object to that, right?
Right.
And so
the people who object to it are the pornographers themselves.
Right.
They're fighting it like the death.
Yes.
So this law also,
but your ordinary parent should be in favor of that.
So you're saying
as
this
well.
law, in addition to social media restrictions for minors, also prohibits access to pornographic websites.
Yes, my point is, at first I understand, all of a sudden we're waking up and they're saying there's age requirements for social media, and you go, wait, what? Why are we doing? We've never done that's new. But if you sit down and think about it, the thought I want all kind of age verification for pornography.
Well, you know what it is. It's our natural reaction as conservatives to the idea of the government restricting our freedoms.
Sure.
Okay, that is a legitimate in the name of.
That's right.
Okay, in the name of protecting us from hate speech, for example, we're going to ban the website for American Family Association. I'm just giving you so we are hypersensitive on the right, Ray. I think you start talking about government controlling speech, our antennas go up. But in this case, it's different. Go ahead.
And that's why I think it's important to recognize it's not a ban.
It's not a ban, right? It's not a ban. Go ahead, Ray. You want to comment on this?
Yeah, I'm just wondering how this is going to be realistically enforced. Is Twitter? I mean, they're going to say, yes, if you're above the age of 14, right?
On this device, do you know how that's going to work, Ray?
I mean,
I have some ideas how they're going to try to implement it.
Okay.
Now, whether or not
it's not going to be foolproof.
Whether or not it's going to be effective is another
because
deal.
a parent could download the social media, or could use the social media website that the kid's restricted from by the Florida state law, and then hand their phone to the kid.
Yes, that's true. That can happen, but I still go back to that the parent then consented to that, and the parent. Now I don't agree with. I'm with Abe.
Right.
I don't agree.
I got you.
14
but at
and under,
least there's some kind of
deterrent for
parental control.
That's it.
And the DeSantis camp highlighted things like sex trafficking, exposing children to pornography
The
and all of those
addictive,
things.
things,
Yeah,
yeah.
things that to get children hooked at age. And the truth is, on those sites like X and all, there are they have pornographic stuff on them.
That's right.
It's just-
Yeah, that's right.
It's not completely avoidable in
No,
the world
no.
in the world we live in. If you're going to be on the internet at all,
The more
But-
you look at it, and the more you listen to Ron DeSantis and his team and their ideas behind this, they are full family thinking, meaning they're trying to help children who are not necessarily having the, I guess, parental.
well, you
care that-
remember a year ago or so in Florida, state legislature again, Governor Ron DeSantis again, they said, listen, third graders
Aren't gonna
and below,
right.
You can't be in the state of Florida public schools. You can't be talking about sex with third graders and below.
Yeah.
Remember that?
In the books.
Well, and that's when Disney went after them.
Yeah.
That's right.
Disney said, "Oh no, you got to let them talk about sex because they need to talk about being gay."
That's right.
So you got the "Don't Say Gay" law.
That's
They
right.
totally misconstrued that.
Yeah.
On purpose to try to make Governor DeSantis and the Florida legislature look bad, but that's what they were saying. Trying to protect the children there, and then the Hollywood and everybody went after DeSantis, saying, "Oh, he says don't say gay."
Yeah.
Which was a really revealing thing, because what parent wants their third grader
Yes.
receiving a discourse about sex at
Anyway.
any kind?
And that's what Disney went after him on.
And to have all of these adults to say,
Right.
I can't believe
Right.
that I can't talk about
Right.
sex to your 8-year-old.
I know.
Yes.
And to this day, the media, particularly Associated Press, continues to say "Don't say gay." They never say the actual name of the bill somewhere
Exactly.
else in the story.
Right. No, it's intentional to try to make DeSantis in Florida look bad. Go ahead. Did you have anything else on this?
Yeah, I did want to add the measure. According to the New York Post, this measure we're talking about in Florida that DeSantis signed, it was pared back slightly from a similar bill that would have barred minors under 16 from social media. Here's my question. The New York Post points this out. It says the law is likely to face a legal challenge similar to those lodged against other states that have passed social media regulations. Do you have to be a certain age to bring a lawsuit? Like, could a 13-year-old?
No.
Okay.
And in order for a
So
lawsuit
we have
to
age
be live,
restrictions for lawsuits.
yes, in order for a minor to advance any claim, they would have to have done so through their parent.
Okay. Okay. That was my question, because
That
we're
was
talking
left
about
out, right?
this at a time where you've got
Well-
like teenagers suing over climate change.
Yeah, because
Wesley
minors don't have the lawful capacity to enter into contracts.
Wesley and Chelsea have 3 of my grandchildren, and they do try to protest parental control. And don't they, Wesley, from time to time?
Oh yeah, talking about my children.
Yeah.
Oh
they-
yeah,
they try to
absolutely.
protest.
Yeah. Oh, we
Hey,
see.
try.
I have
They try to bring a lawsuit, but
I have a common phrase because I understand in 2024 in education you're going to use technology, you're going to use devices and all that, and the internet at times. But I have a phrase that's common, and they go, all right, okay, yes, sir.
Your kids do?
Yeah, here you go. You ready? And we even do this with the baseball team. I coach. All right, no more technology. Whatever, because I'm not opposed to it, but there's a time.
Right, we're shutting it down.
We're shutting it.
Yeah.
And it varies, from week to week and day to day, and it can be earned and lost. But my point is, I understand that too much of it is a bad thing.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you do in your home?
Similarly, in our home, our children know that they have no rights.
That's right.
They'll tell you, oh, we live in a benevolent dictatorship. They'll tell you that.
Yeah.
It's a dictatorship. It's benevolent. It's a dictatorship. I say, you have no rooms.
That's
you
right.
have no bed. That's my bed.
Yes.
I allow you to sleep in
That's it.
Who bought it?
That's it.
Yeah.
This is my internet. You didn't buy it.
Nope. That's
So they say,
it.
oh, no, we live in a benevolent dictatorship.
That's how they can alert.
Hey, I smile, though, Tim.
Yeah,
I smile. Daddy, may I? No.
That's it.
You're going to have to get up to 2024, Abe. You're living in like the middle of the 20th century.
You say what you want.
That's right.
Leave it to Beaver stuff.
Hey.
You're going to have to get with it.
Get with what?
That's right.
I know.
Get with what? Florida's Don't Say Gay bill?
Right.
No, thank you.
All right. Can you hang around for another minute?
Yeah.
You got to go. Okay,
No, I'm
because we
good.
got another big breaking story out for Bob and Chick-fil-A, right?
Yes. Huge story here. I'll share the link because that's my job.
Chick-fil-A did announce what you're about to announce.
Big changes are coming to the chicken at Chick-fil-A, according to the Daily Mail. Here's what's to expect next time you order your favorite sandwich. According to the Daily Mail,
A sandwich.
a sandwich.
What'd you say?
Yeah, I went all southern there. Sandwich. Sandwich. Chick-fil-A will be changing their cooking pledge starting this spring, and it will have a big impact on the brand's famous chicken. Like Tyson Foods, Chick-fil-A will stop its promise in providing antibiotic-free chicken at all the chain's locations. According to a statement released by Chick-fil-A on March 25th, the restaurant will soon begin to shift away from no antibiotics ever to no antibiotics important to human medicine.
All right.
Explain. No.
Yes.
All right.
I can do more if you want.
Ray, do you know what this means? Can you explain it in layman's terms?
Yeah. Basically, they're
from the Book of Ruth. There.
Yeah.
From the chicken that they are serving today.
Okay.
Had no antibiotic exposure whatsoever.
Correct. All right.
Today, none. Now they're saying, I think this is strictly driven by the rising cost of chickens, right? That they're switching over to chickens that have been raised with antibiotics, but none that are important to humans. So I assume no chickens that have had amoxicillin or anything like that, or penicillin or anything. I assume that's what that means, right?
Well, part of this made me chuckle.
No.
What?
Ivermectin.
Yeah.
Off the table.
They can have ivermectin. Chickens take ivermectin.
Cows do. Horses do.
Horses do.
By the way, what I just said was total joking. That is not serious. This is a serious topic, and that was not serious.
Doggone right. We don't joke on this show.
Apparently, there's been a big supply problem with chicken the last couple of years because, according to NBC, chicken farmers were forced to turn to antibiotics after an avian flu outbreak in poultry supplies began in 2022. So much like price is an issue, apparently there's a whole bunch of chickens out there now that are getting pumped with antibiotics to try to beat avian flu.
Okay, but go ahead, Ray.
But they're not being pumped with human antibiotics or antibiotics that are typically used to treat human diseases. Is that correct?
Correct.
So I think what Chick-fil-A is saying there is we got to make a major announcement. So I don't know when they're going to.
You got to announce something like that, I guess, legally. Or I don't know.
Well,
I don't know if it's necessary.
They don't want it like rumored.
Sure,
that's true.
It's
better for them to announce it than for people to discover it.
Yeah, fair enough.
But they're just saying that
they can control the truth.
The chicken has. They're not going to say that their chicken they use is necessarily what do you call it? Antibiotic free.
That's right.
They may have something, but it doesn't harm you. That's what they're saying.
Sure.
It's not chemically dangerous.
As long as they don't change their ice cream. I think we're safe.
The ice cream is magical. It really is. Especially in the summertime.
It's
on a hot day.
It tastes like homemade at a mass.
Peach milkshake. Don't touch it. Don't touch it.
That's right.
Their ice cream here, and nobody's paying me to say this, Chick-fil-A's is as close to homemade as you can get. It's absolutely delicious. But I just wondered how this would affect. Do you think this would affect their sales at all?
I don't think so.
This announcement.
But I mean this with all sincerity. I want to see legislation passed to have Chick-fil-A train every DMV in the country. That's what I want. I need Chick-fil-A's customer service.
Yeah.
Normalized and streamlined and exported across the country.
My pleasure.
You know,
have a great day.
You know, it is our pleasure to serve you. You know,
I would
that's
like
what
to see Chick-fil-A train McDonald's on how to keep their ice cream machines functional.
Yes.
Yeah, that's another question.
That's food for thought right there.
For the longest, I would obviously go to the same. Well, a lot of us go to the same.
This is not true of all McDonald's. So let's don't.
Wait a minute. I'm about. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on.
I'm trying to cover us.
So
we don't want a lawsuit.
You do not.
Please.
Yeah.
Like all of us, we end up going to a lot of the same stops on the way home, and so you develop a route and a pattern. So I thought it was just mine. Mine meaning the one that I drive by to go home, McDonald's, to get just an ice cream. I don't get much from there. I don't go by there much, but if I want to get an ice cream on the way home,
sure,
or for my wife, I thought it was just theirs. It was always broke. And then I've hit up 2 since then just to try to. It's no, Dad.
2 other
I think it's a lot
McDonald's?
more than you think.
So there is a job opening for an ice cream machine fixer.
Yeah.
That can service several McDonald's.
Yeah. I couldn't help myself. One time I was just frustrated, and so she told me it was broke, and I just called her out on it. And I said, "No, you don't want to clean it." And I get it, but just
You
tell
said
me.
that
Oh
back
yeah.
to the
Yeah,
speaker?
because the two times before. No, let's listen. The 2 times before, she said we've already cleaned it up for the night. You know, we're not getting it back out.
Right.
And then but later on down the road, I went back and She told me
Same
it was
again.
broke this time.
So
And
you
I said,
that-
no. I said, it's clean, and you just don't want to get it back out.
Was there any response from across? From
No.
Okay.
She just
said,
said,
thank you for
okay,
coming.
thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Hey.
Well, I tell you what. While we're on this subject of customer service for a minute, I tell you what is annoying to me, and this is for businesses everywhere, especially restaurants, though. Is if you're gonna post your hours, go by your hours.
That's fair.
Here.
Okay. So, what gets me is when I walk. It's maybe the store closes at 9, restaurant, and you go in there at 20 till 9, or 15 till, or even 10 till, and they're like, I'm sorry, sir,
We got the Coke machine working, but that's it.
Yeah. So are you can tell by their attitude that they really don't want to.
It's not their pleasure to serve.
No, it's not. They want to go home, and they're ready to wrap this up. And here you come in at 15 till, which means you're going to get your food at 5 after, which means you're going to be leaving at 10:30 or what, I don't know, 9:30. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's what's going through their head, and many of these places don't mind looking at you in that way. They give you the look, sure. Like, why are you here? You need to.
So you recommend just backing up your close time if that's the
I'm
case.
saying if you're going to close at 10, close at 10. Don't close it at
9:30.
9:30 or 9:48.
Or put the ice cream machine up early.
Yes.
That's what they did.
There you go. There you go. One time I went to a cleaners for the clothes, and so I went in. I went up to the door, and it was like 10 till 5, and the door was locked. I'm like, I need to get these clothes. So I just proceeded to walk around to the back of the building, and so the door was open back there. So I looked in. There was a young lady back there, and I said, I need to get my clothes. Well, we're closed. I said, what time do you close? This is when I went all full Perry Mason. Huh? I said, or Abe Hamilton. I said, what time do you, I said, well, I'm looking at my watch. This is back when I said, what time do you close? 5? I said, well, this is when I got her. I said, what time is it? Because you and me are looking at the same clock. Okay, it's 5 to 5. So you're closing at 5 at 4:55, and so I can't get my clothes. So anyway, I just sat there. I wasn't moving. Huh? I just sat there and looked at her like, you're going to have to come up here because I'm not going to go anywhere.
That's right.
And so she went back up front and gave me my clothes, but she had closed. Now, she wasn't the owner. That's the thing about it is the owners usually, they're going to stay open and service the customer because they want your continued business. But you get an employee who doesn't give a rip, they'll close early on you. But anyway, that just happened to me. But I got my clothes.
Yeah.
But what if those employees would demand pay through closing time?
That's a duly noted. I bet they do, Abe. Anyway, I forced her to tell me what time it was. That was a moment I remember even to this day. The look on her face, like you got me, you got me, and you got me, and I know you got me, and yes,
here are your clothes.
Yes, and I'm not moving till you get back up here and give me my clothes.
Did you go back?
No.
Okay.
Did not. I quit there.
Okay. I was about to say because you might not have got. You might have. We couldn't get that out.
I don't believe. Listen, I've given many places grace, and I understand people have bad days, and they who knows what these the employees go through when they're in their personal. So I don't. Not everything I quit over, but listen, when I got 10 different cleaners you can use.
There you go.
And I can't trust that when I go there, the hours are going to be right. Yes, I'll go somewhere else because I'm a man of conviction.
That's it.
Ray.
Enjoy while you can before the socialist states of America take over.
No.
There you go. That's right.
Thank you, Ray.
And you get
Thank
one.
you, Tim.
Thanks to Abraham Hamilton III. What was your warning just now?
Yeah, enjoy the 10 different cleaners options while you can.
Before you have one cleaners operated by the government?
Yes, before you have one cleaner and there's somebody behind that says, Welcome to the
Good.
It is our pleasure to serve you today.
All right, I want to thank Wesley
Enjoyed it.
and Chris Woodward.
Thank you.
Fred Jackson. Is that all today? And Brent Creeley, our producer. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
And my father, your great-grandfather, fought in World War II.
Really?
He was a gunner on the big ship out in the Pacific.